So, welcome to Mums Get Fit Retreat, how to get your body back and feel sexy again after kids. This is the free online event specifically for the busy mum who wants to lose weight, tone up, and feel confident in herself and her body by eating better, working out, and working on her mindset. I am your host, Jessica Marie, and today we have a very special guest with us, Hannah Aylward, who is a certified holistic health coach, gut health expert, author, and the founder of Han. She helps women around the world take their health into their own hands and live in bodies that they can thrive in with healthy weight, seamless digestion, clear mind, glowing skin, abundant energy, and a huge smile. She teaches women how to eat for their gut health, give up dieting, tap into their intuition, and feel at home in their bodies again. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're so welcome. So, Hannah, tell me a bit about where you started and why you do what you do.
Yes, I love my work so much. So as you mentioned, I'm a certified holistic health coach specializing in gut health. And I really got into this line of work because I struggled with these issues myself. I was dealing with terrible bloating, indigestion, migraines, skin issues. I got to the point where I felt like I couldn't even digest water, like things were not working in my body.
Yeah.
And I felt awful. And if anyone here watching this has dealt with that, then you know that it impacts you physically, but it also impacts you mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You end up wanting to stay home. You end up missing out on events. You develop loads of fear around certain foods, all of that. So it goes much farther than just like kind of not feeling good. It starts to impact your whole life. And that's really where I was. I was struggling for a very long time with this. And I couldn't find the resources that I needed. I couldn't find the help that I really needed. So that's when I started to focus on gut health, completely dove into the research. I've been researching this for like 10 years now. It's like my whole heart and soul. And yeah, that's really why I got into it. And then I was noticing that a lot of women that I was working with weren't getting the answers that they were looking for and weren't getting the help that they really needed. A lot of them were being kind of dismissed. A lot of them were being told that they were just stressed out, that it was in their head, that there was nothing we could do about it, things like that. And I just really wasn't willing to take that as an answer. So that's when I get up on my soapbox and I'm like, there is a way, I promise. So my work is very passion driven and mission driven. And I really got in this to help myself initially and also help, everyone else.
Yeah, it's an absolutely fascinating topic, and I can completely relate to what you're saying with having symptoms myself. And it's one of those things, like the gut-brain connection is so huge.
Yeah.
So what would you say how would you describe some of the symptoms you may have if somebody's gut health might be a bit off?
Yes, this is always such a good question because it can reach so far and so wide when you're dealing with gut health issues. So a lot of the time we think about things like digestion, right? Impaired digestion, which can look like bloating, acid reflux. It can look like constipation. It can look like stomach pain, all of that. But it can also look like acne, cystic acne, hormonal acne will be influenced by your gut health, eczema, psoriasis, joint pain, migraines, like the inability to lose weight. So it goes so far. The gut is really the epicenter of our health. So it's going to impact our hormones, our energy, our overall health. So well, I work with a lot of women that deal with digestive issues specifically. So a lot of them will deal with lots of food sensitivities, lots of really bad bloating that no diet seems like it can get rid of, constipation, diarrhea, alternating between, things like IBS. We'll see improvements in all these other symptoms, and you'll realize that these symptoms don't come just alone, right? So they'll also come with migraines, brain fog, anxiety, depression, whatever it may be. So we'll actually see lots of things get better throughout this process. But kind of the telltale signs are digestive issues, but you can definitely have an imbalance in the gut without digestive issues as well.
Yes, it's huge, isn't it? So what would you say is, when it comes to like your digestive tract, like where does it start? Does it typically just start in the stomach, or is your mouth also affected by your digestive tract?
Yes, your mouth is totally an overlooked, I think, piece of the puzzle, but so important. And when I educate my students, I always say that digestion begins in the brain. So we all know when you walk into your home and there's something cooking on the stove, you're like, that smell, it smells so good. And then you're like, oh, I'm actually a little hungry, right? Because your brain is quite literally priming your system to properly digest your food. And as you mentioned briefly, the gut brain connection is so, so, so strong. And I work with all of my students on this. No one wants to do it, but they really need to do it because it makes all the difference. But digestion really starts in the brain. Your brain kind of signals like, hey, it's time to eat. It's time to digest our food. Let's get working on this. And that's another reason why when we're eating in a really stressed state, when we're eating and we're at our desk, we're, cranking away on emails, or we're plugging away on a project, or we're driving in the car, or whatever it may be, we're not really primed to actually properly digest our food, right? Because our brain hasn't really picked up like, hey, it's time to eat. So you'll notice if you're on vacation and you're relaxed, or you're sitting at the dinner table for a few minutes, while you're waiting for your food, or you're out to eat, you're probably going to digest your food a little bit better because your body is getting ready for it, right? So it really begins in the brain. And then I say it comes to the mouth, like we've got to chew, chew, chew. This is, so many of us kind of scarf our food down. I'm always the last one to finish. Like if you ever eat with me, everyone's like, are you still eating? Oh my goodness. But I'm just like, I can't do it all at once. I can't talk and eat at the same time, but it's so important to chew your food because we have teeth in our mouth, but we don't have teeth anywhere else in our digestive tract, right? So this is how we take these bigger substances, whatever we're eating, and really break them down. And then the food enters the esophagus and then goes into the stomach, which our stomach acid should be there. A lot of people deal with low stomach acid to break down the protein that we eat, break it down into amino acids. We can properly absorb these nutrients and utilize them, and also to protect us from pathogens. So if we pick up any bug, bacteria, whatever it is, which is all around us, right? Our stomach acid is supposed to protect us from that. And then it starts to go into the, intestines, but the pancreas plays a part, the liver plays a part, the gallbladder, all of that. And then it gets into small intestine, large intestine, and the large intestine is going to be the place when people talk about probiotics, so they talk about good gut bacteria. We kind of want those to be in the large intestine. But yeah, it's a whole system.
So how long should you really take to eat your meals? Is it different each time, or is there sort of a time frame that people should be aiming for?
Yeah, I would say, around the 30-minute mark is always a good idea. I understand that a lot of people don't have that much time. I think it's important to make that time if you can, and kind of also take a review and ask yourself, why do I not have this time, right? Where am I not taking enough breaks? Where am I doing too much, to kind of reevaluate things? But I would say in general, we want 30 minutes, depending on the meal, but something like a smoothie could be a little bit less time, but we still want to kind of chew the smoothie. I talk about that as well a lot. So because we can literally produce, salivary enzymes to further break down our food. So when we start to chew, these juices kind of get going. But overall, I would say 30 minutes. If you can go for a full 30 minutes, you're doing great.
Yeah, that's amazing. With like you're talking about having smoothies, if somebody does have gut health issues, is it appropriate for them to incorporate fasting into the equation as well, or is it better to still be, I guess, having nourishing things coming into your body whilst the healing process is taking place?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm a fan of fasting overnight, right? So fasting from dinner to breakfast. My general recommendation is to fast around 12 hours during that time, maybe 13, maybe 14, but really no, I'm not into the long periods, the 16 hours, the 18 hours, anything like that. Intermittent fasting is very big right now and has been for a few years. And while it can help, specifically in women, specifically in women that are in reproductive years, it's women's hormones are shifting every single cycle, all cycle long. And it's in the female body goes into fight or flight, goes into preservation much easier than the male body. And a lot of these studies that have been done on intermittent fasting have been done on male bodies and rats, not the female body who is, can bear a child and all of that. So I don't love stretching that out too much. I also like people, it's a fine balance because we have something called the MMC, our migrating motor complex, where we want to space out our meals so it can kind of do its job. it's kind of like a broom that will just sweep through the small intestine, sweeping any debris kind of down. We don't want it hanging out in the small intestine, which will lead to a whole host of other issues. But so it takes a few hours to kind of let that happen, but we don't want to go too long. So I like the 3.5 to 4 hour mark in between meals, not 5, not 6, not 7. It's very easy for the body to go into fight or flight, which is actually going to negatively impact digestion for the rest afterwards, because your body goes into preservation and it doesn't go into something about digesting food. It's thinking about surviving, right? So not really pushing that, and then not really pushing the intermittent fasting window. You know, a 12 hours feels very natural. It feels like enough time to rest. It feels like we kind of do it easily. Once we get into the 16, especially if you're going through your morning and you're like trying not to eat, I'm not a fan of that. I'm also not a fan of promoting things with that can lead to complicated relationships with food. A lot of people have very complicated relationships with food. It's not just about nutrients. We wrap in emotions, we wrap in worth, we wrap in all these other things. So when we start to push these things longer and longer, these eating windows, I think it's kind of it can start a lot of issues going forward. So it's not very supportive hormonally, and therefore it's not very supportive for our gut health to go too long. But I think a decent rest is good. So it's all about, there's lots of concepts in the wellness world, and we tend to go 0 to 100 with them, but it's always about finding that balance of what works for us and utilizing it here and there, right? But not pushing it too much and not doing like an 18-hour window every single night. It's a very quick way to burn out your thyroid and to go into HPA axis dysfunction and feel exhausted going forward. So I don't recommend.
Yes, I completely agree with you. 12 hours seems very easily and achievable, but 16 hours to 18, you're definitely very hungry during that time. So
totally. And you'll feel it in your body. You'll feel maybe good initially because you're starting to run off of cortisol and adrenaline, like stress hormones. So you'll kind of feel like, oh, I feel lighter, I feel brighter. And then usually what happens is when we eat, then we get really tired because the body was just running off of stress hormones, and then we kind of plummet. Or it works for a month, it works for 2 months, and then we start to really like, we'll get the dark circles under our eyes. We'll start to feel wired and tired. Our sleep will get a little restless, and it'll kind of go downhill from there. Because when a lot of us are managing like 18 things at one time, like most people, if you have zero stress in your life, it can work for you. That's not the person that I tend to work with. You know, most of us are juggling either jobs or projects and children and all of this kind of stuff. So when you need fuel for your body to not go into fight or flight, and for your brain to work and to feel supported, so you don't end up with some thyroid issue, adrenal issue, and your digestion will be better off for it too.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So how would you go about balancing your blood sugar levels and nourishing your gut to maintain and lose weight more effortlessly?
Yes. I am all about getting the body back on your side. So I think that there's so much talk out there about diets, restricting, taking out, you know, all of that, when we can, what I like to focus on is actually giving your body what it needs to be able to work with you, right? So a lot of women feel like they are at war with their bodies. They're trying not to eat these foods. They're like muscling through it. They're hungry, but they won't reach for the chocolate because it'll end into this spiral. They'll feel bad for it or whatever it may be. And that usually happens because our blood sugar levels have dropped so low. So what we want to do is we want to have a nice and even, smooth sailing blood sugar curve throughout the day. So we avoid that hangry phase, right? That phase where you're like, I don't care what it is. I'm starving. I'll eat the first thing that I see type of deal. You sit down at the restaurant, you see the bread basket, you're like, I don't even care. Give me everything. You got any other appetizers? Or you walk in home, you bust open your fridge and you're like palming the first thing that you see because you're starving, and your body is like, fuel me, right? So that's what we want to avoid, because nothing feels easy in that state. Making good decisions doesn't feel easy. Making a healthy meal choice doesn't feel easy. Responding with like presence and gratitude doesn't feel easy. It's kind of an out of body feeling, right? You're a little bit more triggered, irritable, angry. So it's not really conducive to like an overall healthy life, right? So we want to work with this blood sugar curve, get the body on our side so we feel present and we feel available to make these decisions that really support us. Therefore, it's also going to make eating for your gut health easier. It's also going to make making healthy choices to feel better, to support your weight goals, whether it's weight management, weight loss, whatever it is, it's going to make all of that easier. We also see, like I mentioned, the cortisol response, the adrenaline response, that stress response when we go too long, or when we eat something that really spikes our blood sugar levels and then they drop really low. And then we enter into that kind of panicky state, right? That hangry state.
Yeah.
That's when the blood sugar levels drop really low. And from there, our digestion starts to shut down a little bit because it's in preservation mode. So our blood sugar levels impact our gut health, and our gut health impacts our blood sugar levels, and our blood sugar levels impact our weight, and our gut health impacts our weight, right? So it's all connected here. There are certain gut bacteria that influence the amount of calories you extract from foods. There are certain gut bacteria that influence your insulin levels, your insulin response. So it's all so connected. But what I love to focus on with clients is balancing out that blood sugar curve. So to break it down very quickly and easily for everyone,
Yeah.
when we eat something that's very sugary or very processed carb laden, right, our blood sugar levels are going to increase very high. And when they increase very high, they dip very low. And that's when we get into that spot of like, oh my goodness. So in your life, it may look like waking up, your cortisol is already naturally higher, or should be, to wake you up, which is good. Cortisol is not all bad, right? But then it's like, we're getting the kids ready, we're running around, we've got an hour, we're doing this, we're brushing our teeth while we're doing 18 other things. And then we totally ditch breakfast. We don't have time for it. So then we drop the kids off for school. We grab a coffee, we grab a muffin, whatever it is at the local spot. And that caffeine with the carbohydrates and the sugar are going to spike your blood sugar levels. You're also not getting in a lot of nutrient density. So your body actually isn't satisfied, most likely. And what happens is your blood sugar levels are going to dip really low. And that's when you get home or you get into the office or whatever it may be, and it's like 10:30 in the morning and you're like kind of snacky, right? You're like, there's some M&Ms in that bowl over there, or I guess I'll eat this granola bar here, or whatever it may be. So then you have that, which is sugar, carbohydrates, processed foods, right? It's going to increase again, dip again very low. You roll into lunch and you can't wait for lunch. It's like 11 a.m. and all you can think about is lunch, right? So you're like so excited to eat. So as we can see, this doesn't feel very conducive to living a life that's where your body is just working with you, right? Like at this point in my life, I don't really even think about my next meal. That was not the case for like a long time. I was constantly fighting when I would be hungry, constantly worrying about what I would eat next, constantly worried about how it would make me feel. The list goes on and on. So to avoid this up and down blood sugar curves, that's like this, where we really want it like this.
Yeah.
It's about pairing the right macronutrients and nutrient density, right? So pairing good quality, slow burning carbohydrates. Carbohydrates aren't the devil. They're not awful for us, right? Our body needs them. Glucose fuels the brain. But pairing the right ones with fiber, with good quality fiber, with good quality healthy fats, and with protein, getting an adequate protein. So we turn off our hunger hormones, we stay satiated, and then we kind of roll into lunch. And then we can make a choice that's a lot easier, right? We're not frantic, we're not irritable. We're like, yeah, sure, I'll get the salad with the grilled chicken or whatever it is, because that sounds fine. You're not like grasping for anything or whatever you see. So pairing those macronutrients is very, very important for us to turn off the stress response in the body, to support our gut health, to keep the body calm, to keep your energy up too, because when we drop really low, the energy goes, right? Or it kind of spikes up first because we're running on those stress hormones, and then we burn out and crash by like 3 p.m. So it's a really, working with your blood sugar curve is a really amazing and simple way to optimize overall health and keep your energy levels up. It's going to better your sleep. It's going to better your gut health. It's going to make your weight loss journey a million times easier, or your weight management journey a million times easier, because you're not fighting against your body. And every time our blood sugar spikes, we produce insulin, and insulin is going to be that fat storing hormone. So if we're pumping that all out all day long, crashing more, it's just not supportive of overall health, really, because we want to keep our bodies kind of sensitive to that too. So it's pairing the right macronutrients and not needing to count anything or weigh anything or anything like that, but just being mindful, like, hey, do I have these on my plate? Do I have a good quality protein? Do I have some good fiber to feed my gut microbes, to keep me full? Do I have healthy fats to support my hormones, to just support my brain function, all of that? And do I have a good, slow burning carbohydrate, something like a squash or a sweet potato or black beans or something like that, that burns a little slower, but is going to give me that energy that I need to keep on going. And that's what I like people to look at. Not what can I have? I have to take everything out, but I want to make sure I have enough on this plate. And we'll realize that the whole journey gets easier after that.
So it makes a lot of sense, like ultimately focusing on keeping your blood sugar level stable as opposed to like focusing too much on the food. It's more making sure that you eat consistently and pick good choices.
Yes, yes. And I think it's very easy. And I think a lot of us have been inundated with this information of don't eat too much and eat this amount of calories and take all these foods out. These are on the no list. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work for any of us long term, right? I'm into sustainability. I'm into something that feels like it works with my lifestyle. That's not something that I have to fight with for the rest of my life. That doesn't sound like a good, happy life to me. I love my chocolate. I love a good margarita, all of that. And that can all be a part of working with this.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, I think.
Yes.
So could you explain to me like what it is with gut issues and why does fiber sometimes become like a really big problem for people? So somebody might go to the doctors and get told to eat more fiber, and then that can be really constipating sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What could possibly be going on in that scenario?
Yeah, totally. It's a great question. So fiber is amazing for us. Like it's going to help, it helps our body get rid of excess cholesterol. It helps us stay full. It quite literally binds to toxins. It binds to calories. It takes them out of the system. It feeds our gut microbes. Our gut microbes love it so much. So it's really important to get enough of it. I talk a lot about things like the low FODMAP diet, which a lot of people with pretty serious digestive issues will try out. Definitely don't recommend long-term. It's not a long-term solution because it's going to deplete your levels of good gut microbiota. It's going to feel really restrictive. It doesn't feel sustainable at all to me and a lot of the people that I work with. So what it does is it takes out a lot of these fibers, right? So if you go in and you notice that you do increase fiber and it kind of leads to more issues, what I would want to ask is, are we drinking enough water? A lot of people will increase the fiber without increasing hydration, right? And that's going to lead to like feeling like you're blocked up. Things aren't being able to move through. We need adequate hydration for that.
Yeah.
Are we getting in enough minerals, right? So like things like sodium, potassium, magnesium, these are all going to help our body actually properly hydrate and help everything work better in balance. And minerals, an easy way to do it is like an electrolyte supplement or like powder. That's good quality. Look for the other ingredients in there. But that's a great way to make sure that you're actually shuttling the hydration into the cell and supporting this whole process. Another thing that it comes to is, are you eating adequate healthy fats? Because it kind of helps lubricate everything and helps move things through the system as well. So good quality olive oil, avocado oil, avocados, coconut, things like that are going to be really beneficial here too. And then after we've kind of like tested those out and gradually increase fiber, because everyone has their like sweet spot too, right? So we go a little bit too much and it's like kind of issues. We do too little and we aren't going to the bathroom, right? So it's all about finding that sweet spot for yourself. And if you're someone that does need a lot of fiber, most people do not get adequate fiber, then bringing it up slowly is also really important too. Looking into things like magnesium deficiency, most of us are deficient in magnesium. It's absolutely essential. I think it's used for every enzymatic reaction in the body. Like it's not used for like 5%. It's the number keeps growing. At first we said it was 300 enzymatic reactions. Now it's like 3,000. Like we are finding that it's involved in so much. Yeah. So it's super important, and stress depletes it. Our soil is not enriched with the minerals that it used to be. So I would look into that. And stress, look into that. Get real, like get really honest with yourself. Like, do I feel stressed out? Do I feel calm in my body? Do I feel safe in my body? This is stuff I work with all of my clients on, like bringing in these stress management practices. And if none of that is working, or you're like, girl, I can't even touch fiber, I'm so sensitive to it, I bloat and all of that, then I would want you to get you some testing. I do with my clients a comprehensive stool analysis test. Certain one that I really like, and that's going to detect certain pathogens, bacterial overgrowths, yeast overgrowths, digestive output markers, which may sound like you're like, what? But
no, it all makes sense.
It's important information for me to have, because usually what happens is that it's not like our DNA breaks down fiber, right? Our gut microbes break them down. So when we look at things like FODMAPs, very popular, and like if you've been diagnosed with IBS or if you've been told you had SIBO, which like I could talk about this topic for literally 3 hours, so I'll just stop it there. But if you've been told, you know, that if you feel like you feel better on a low FODMAP diet, it's a sure tell sign that there's gut dysfunction, right? We'll do that. A lot of people that I see will feel slightly better on it when they have something like SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Yep. So it's not the foods themselves that's causing the issue. It's the bacterial overgrowth, right? Yep. And even before that, it's how did we get the bacterial overgrowth? I'm like, I play the health detective and I help people put the pieces of the puzzle together, but it's not that we need to fear these foods forever. It could be good to take them out short term, but we want you to be able to eat as many foods as possible. What I do with my clients is I try to get them to be able to eat as many foods as possible. That could take a little bit of time. We do have to figure out why they can't digest these foods, but there's always an underlying issue here. So if you're like, I cannot eat those foods, and you feel like bringing them in slowly over time, your gut's not working it out, you're not figuring it out, I would really recommend testing. It's going to save you loads of time and pain and money in the long run. And unfortunately, I'm in America. A lot of the doctors don't do the testing here. So working with someone who's a more functional practitioner who can get you this good testing, it's different. It's different than a colonoscopy or kind of the routine testing, which is still very important. But this takes it kind of another level further of like, why is this going on? And that's what we want to really find out.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Everything that you've just said. It's a very complex subject, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's why I'm like, I have been studying this for so many years. It's like, it's not, I really highly recommend, you know, education, and I'm all about like informed decisions. So making informed decisions. And I speak out a lot against women going into their doctor's offices and feeling completely dismissed and unheard and all of that. And it just like really grinds my gears. But at the same time, it's like, it's not your job to know it all, right? So it's like, learn a little bit, be able to have the conversation, and also be able to surrender and trust someone to guide you through it. So like in my journey, I work with practitioners. I have my own practitioners that I use, you know, and it's part of the healing is just being able to go into them and be like, you've got this. I don't need to worry about this. So my nervous system can actually settle, right? So it's both. It's like, use your intuition, gain some education so you can really have the conversation and know when something doesn't feel right, and trust that despite what your doctor says is my advice. Whatever, like, you're going to know in your gut, quite literally, what feels right and what doesn't, and really advocate for yourself and try to find a practitioner that you feel like you really gel with, and that's going to figure it out and go to bat for you, you know, and that's so important. We don't need to be feeling dismissed or unheard in this area of our lives. Your health is so important.
Do you think you could come maybe live in Australia?
Maybe, but there are some great practitioners there too, you know, but I work with people. I mean, I have clients, we have a client in Turkey right now. I have a client in the UK. And so I work with clients all over, but, which is nice. You know, I've found some labs internationally, but I'm telling you, there are good practitioners out there. It just takes a little digging. And part of my mission is to continue to teach this information and continue to get this education out there, for that exact reason, because it's not as mainstream. And most of my clients have seen at least 4 doctors by the time they find me, and they're like, this is the last resort, I don't even know. And I'm like, just wait. And then they're like, I literally last week had a client say, I just learned more in this 1 hour session than I did in all 10 years going to see doctors. Like, why didn't my doctor tell me this? And I don't know that answer. Doctors I'm not trying to like speak poorly about them. They're so educated. They're so well-versed in what they know. We need them. They're a piece of this puzzle that cannot be replicated, but there's just other resources out there as well if you feel like you're not getting the answers that you need.
Yeah, they just tend to focus on one specific bit, but not always the whole picture, which, you know.
Yeah. And they're really good for like the really big things, for like this is a very serious issue. We need surgery. We need this. We need, you know, like a very acute, really bad issues. When it's chronic and it builds up and we could have prevented it, and it's not going to quote unquote like take you out. It's just going to really degrade your quality of life. Yeah. That's when, you know, these other practitioners can really come into play. So it's both. Like, I like to work with them. It's a team. We need both.
Yeah. Oh, makes so much sense. Thank you so much, Hannah, for your time today here. I feel like we've covered so much. My mind is just blown.
Yes, you're so welcome.
Would you perhaps like to share a little bit about your special gift that you have?
Yes, of course. So I have my 3-day gut reset where it's totally free. You can download it at my website. It's just go.hannahaylward.com/3-day gut, I believe is the URL. We can double check and make sure that you have the URL.
I'll put it under the video. Yeah, we'll put the link there.
Perfect. Yeah. And this is just like, this is a beginning point, right? So if you've been dealing with digestive issues for 15 years or something, this is not going to be enough. I am like not in the game of like selling like a 3-day fix for all of your problems. That's not how it works, right? But it's a great start. It's a great place to start. It can give us a lot of education in regards to how you react to it as well. But a lot of people, like I've had many people be like, my joint pain is gone, my brain fog is gone. I was constipated for 2 weeks and I did your reset and I went to the bathroom. So a lot of people get amazing results with it. The recipes in there are delicious. There are some lifestyle tips as well. So it's a great start and an intro if you're like, half of what you were saying is way over my head, right? Like this is a really great place to start, to learn more about your body and to kind of reset a little bit too, because our gut microbiome responds really quickly to our foods, right? So it's like 24 hours. And in 24 hours, our gut microbiota can kind of shift in the right way if we're doing it, if we're really feeding it well, and in the wrong way if we're not, right? So you don't need to fear that, but the 3-day gut reset is a great like intro place to begin. Loads of delicious recipes in there. You get access to like my hand morning power smoothie, which I have people on all over the world, and it helps elongate that blood sugar curve, helps promote gut proliferation, and yeah, it's amazing. So I highly recommend.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. Thank you very much. And thank you guys, everyone, to watching this episode. And please be sure to stay tuned for tomorrow's upcoming interview. And we'll see you then.